as an exorcist, I have seen demonic entities with my eyes. I've seen them.
So how many exorcisms have you performed?
Well, I mean, that would be more than I can count, probably definitely in the hundreds. But it's important, I think, to note that most exorcisms are not what you associate with like the movies. Those are called solemn exorcisms where, the person's usually pretty bad off. It's usually full-blown possession, and it requires all of the resources of the rites of exorcism to resolve those kinds of cases. But those are so rare, we almost never see them. However, minor exorcisms are what we tend to perform more often than not. And that resolves, I'd say, 98, 99% of all cases that we see.
So when you do an exorcism, right, like let's look at the minor exorcism and then the major exorcism, so to speak. What are you doing in a minor exorcism? What are you doing in a major one?
Well, in a minor one, it's shorter by hours. I'd say a solemn exorcism could take, on any given session, could take 3-4 hours to complete, whereas a minor exorcism can typically be done in less than a half an hour. It's a shorter prayer. It is really just that. It's a prayer, a very aggressive prayer where the person who confers it, which is usually going to be a priest, although there are minor exorcisms that are authorized for the laity to use as well, where the individual affirms their Christian authority over dark forces. And that's essentially all it is. With a solemn exorcism or a major exorcism, what you're now doing is having to go through the process of unraveling the onion that is the case. Typically, this is reserved for possessions only. Minor exorcisms can be performed on any particular kind of disturbance. It can be performed on an object, a location, or a person. They typically are used for resolving demonic oppressions or obsessions, but possession is usually reserved for the solemn rite.
Can you give me an example of like what that prayer would be, the minor exorcism prayer?
Yeah, it's you call on the Blessed Virgin, you call on Saint Michael the Archangel, you call on all of the forces of the church to liberate the object, location, or person from the effects of what has been confirmed to be some kind of malevolent spiritual force like a demon, and that's essentially it. One of the simplest ones that the laity can use. It doesn't have to be an exorcist that prays this. Is the St. Michael prayer. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May thou rebuke thee. That kind of stuff. And then you just continue on. It's not a long prayer, but these are just things that you can use to facilitate that connection, to assist and aid in the client's recovery process. Because essentially, as an exorcist, you are a facilitator. You're not a magician. You're not a wizard. You're not coming in performing incantations. What you're doing is you're facilitating the victim's connection to God.
So what is the person possessed by?
That's an interesting question. I mean, that will vary depending upon who you talk to. The conventional understanding in the church is that this is a sentient fallen angel, that one of these forces of the devil that are out there looking for targets. And so, that's where, as an exorcist, I have seen demonic entities with my eyes. I've seen them.
So when we talk about like a full possession, what does that look like? What does that really look like?
Okay, so it's a lot like the movies, so if we're going to use like The Exorcist, like Linda Blair as sort of the archetype of possession, it's a lot like that, only that's more exaggerated than what we would really see. So you're never going to see head spinning. I've never encountered that. You're not going to see levitation to the ceiling. But you will see some of that profane behavior, the vulgarity, the nasty, verbal attacks against the priest, or sacrilege, that they will sometimes say. There will be that guttural sort of beastly voice that can sometimes come out of people that you could not fathom that they could make those noises or sound like that. I've seen children, young girls, maybe younger than Linda Blair in that movie, talk with a deep masculine voice that it's like there's just no way their vocal cords could produce that sound. You'll sometimes see words not quite like where it comes out in this three-dimensional help me, but there'll be like scratches on the body that will form letters that can turn into words or symbols. Speaking in languages that they have never learned is something that we will sometimes see, not always, but sometimes. Sometimes you'll hear more than one voice coming out of them. And that's always an interesting manifestation, because how could you be saying two different things from the same voice? And that's when there's more than one presence, which is often. One of the things that you want to know is not only getting their name, but you want to know how many are there and how many do you have to expel. It's not really expelling, it's more like dissolving, but that's another story. As far as everything else, it's what you kind of would expect. They're violent, they're angry, they're disturbed, they can go stiff as a board, they can increase in strength far beyond what a person of their stature could normally produce. I've seen little old ladies be able to really wrestle wrestle 5 guys. I've seen children knock 2 guys over, with just moving their arm. I mean, it can be very exaggerated in that respect, but you know it when you see it. It wouldn't be shocking in the sense. I mean, it'd be shocking because you'd be like, I didn't know this could actually really happen, but it wouldn't shock you like this is so different than I thought it would be. No, you'd be like, yeah, this is kind of what I expected. It's just kind of shocking that you're seeing it with your own eyes and not on a television screen with an actor.
Right, like, man, I would be like, oh my God, I would get out of there. Like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Do you get scared?
No. I've never been frightened by anything that I've done in this work. It just doesn't bother me, although I know there are people that do get bothered by it.
I'll be dramatic and kind of asking the inevitable question, right? But what would you say to somebody who might be listening to this and just, what are you talking about, right? Like, what is this? None of this is real. You can't prove any of this.
It's not about proving it. See, incorporeal experience has to be dealt with at the level of where that individual's at. And so it doesn't matter if it's objectively true to you or not. What matters is a person's having an experience and it is destroying their life, and the church and its methods work. So why would we not use it just because you don't believe in it?